Very good afternoon to one and all. I welcome you all for the next lecture of heat transfer. Please let me know whether my voice is audible and can you see my presentation? Great. So in the last lecture, at the end of the lecture, we have started one new point, that is nothing but combination of natural and forced convection. And we have discussed that at very high velocity, we can say that the forced convection is dominating over the natural convection, and we have to neglect the natural convection effect in that case. But the velocity is very less, or we can say that very small velocity is there, and in that case, we have to consider the effect of natural convection with the effect of forced convection. Okay, and for that we have to consider some cases. Okay, when we have to consider that the only we required only forced convection, and we have to neglect the free convection, or we have to consider both free and forced convection. So to adapt the problem statement as per the requirement, we required some correlations. Okay, and that is nothing but, for that reason we are using the correlation of a Grashoff's number and Reynolds number. Okay, so Grashoff's number is dealing with the natural convection, whereas the Reynolds number is dealing with the forced convection. So the ratio between these two values will provide you whether we have to use the forced convection, or the problem statement is about the forced convection, or the problem statement is about the natural convection, or the problem statement is about the combined forced and free convection. So the first one is the ratio of Grashoff's number to the Reynolds number square is less than 0.1. Then we have to, by default, we have to consider the problem statement for the forced convection. And if this Grashoff number to the Reynolds number square ratio is greater than or equal to 10, then we have to consider the problem statement uh, is of free convection. Okay, problem statement is for the free convection, and it is in between 0.1 and 10. Then we have to consider that the problem is about mixed convection, and accordingly we have to solve that particular problem. Okay, accordingly we have to solve that particular problem. Now, solution for the problem should be start with the Nusselt number. Okay, so what will be the Nusselt number? Average Nusselt number for the free and forced convection. So in that case, we have to consider this particular formula, that nu raised to m is equal to the average Nusselt number raised to m is equal to Nusselt number for the forced convection raised to m plus or minus Nusselt number for a free convection raised to m. Okay, so most of the time this value of m is 3, and if it is not provided in the problem, you can assume that m is equal to 3, and if it is provided in the problem statement, then we have to consider that particular value. Okay, then what is the significance of this plus or minus? If the forced convection and free convection will happen in a same direction, okay, will happen in a same direction, then we have to consider the positive sign. And if forced convection and free convection are happening in a opposite direction, okay, then we have to consider the negative direction. Okay, negative direction. Now, what formulas we have to consider? There are n number of correlations about this particular combined free and forced convection. So we are going to discuss only one case, because the problems related to the combined free and forced convection, in these particular problems, the formulas, okay, formulas are directly provided in the problem statement. That is, nu force is equal to, or nu free is equal to, and determine the the heat transfer rate. Determine the heat transfer rate. So in this fashion, the problem statement itself include the formulas. Okay, so we need not to worry about this formulas. Okay, so most of the time these formulas are very much complicated one, and because of that these formulas are provided in the problem statement only. Okay, so for that reason only two formulas we are going to consider, and that is about the internal flow through horizontal pipe. Okay, internal flow through horizontal pipe. So case one, mixed convection for internal flow through horizontal pipe. Okay, so in a horizontal pipe the flow is considered to be a laminar flow when Reynolds number is less than or equal to 2000. Okay, in case of a pipe, the fluid is flowing through the pipe, then in that case the flow will be considered as a laminar when the Reynolds number is less than 2000. Okay, that you have better know now. Now then in that case average nozzle number will be provided as 1.75 inside the bracket mu suffix b divided by mu suffix x raised to 0.14 in a square bracket gz plus 0.012 inside the bracket gz multiplied by gr raised to 1 by 3 bracket complete raised to 4 by 3 square bracket complete raised to 1 by 3. Okay, so this formula is known as a Brown and Goving equation. Okay, so Brown and Goving equation. Okay, which is used for internal flow through horizontal pipe and for the laminar flow. For the laminar flow. So here mu b represent the dynamic viscosity at their bulk mean temperature, and mu s represent the dynamic viscosity at the surface temperature. Okay, whereas gz is nothing but Gray's number, gz is nothing but Gray's number, and gr is nothing but the Grashoff's number. Gr is nothing but the Grashoff's number. Okay, so mu suffix s is equal to viscosity at a surface temperature, and mu suffix b is the viscosity at bulk mean temperature. Okay, then the same for the turbulent flow. If the Reynolds number is greater than 2000, in that case we have to consider the flow through pipe is turbulent flow. Okay, so in that case nozzle number, average nozzle number will be calculated as 4.69 inside bracket Reynolds number raised to 0.27, Prandtl number raised to 0.21, and Grashof number is equal to 0.07. Okay, wait for 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Stop. 1 minute. Wait for 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so sorry for interference. So for turbulent flow, so flow through pipe will be considered as a turbulent when the Reynolds number is greater than 2000. Okay, so in that case, average Nusselt number. Okay, for the combined natural and free convection. Okay, this equation is for the combined natural and free convection. So average Nusselt number in that case will be given as 4.69 inside bracket Reynolds number raised to 0.27 multiply by Prandtl number raised to 0.21 multiply by Grashoff's number raised to 0.07 multiply by D divided by L raised to 0.36 raised to 0.36. So this equation is called as Matthijs and Eckert equation. This equation is called as Matthijs and Eckert equation. Okay. So these points we have to discuss. That points are remaining from the last lecture, and we have to write these particular points, and you can we can further move ahead to the problem on this particular topic, and this chapter will be finished. Okay, so in mixed convection, write down in mixed convection regime, nu raised to m, which is equal to nu raised to nu forced raised to m plus or minus nu free raised to m. Okay, so generally recommended value of m is equal to 3. Generally recommended value of m is equal to 3. Generally recommended value of m is equal to 3. Then positive or negative sign is taken. Then positive or negative sign is taken. Positive or negative sign is taken if the free convection flow, the positive or negative sign is taken if the free convection flow occurs, if the free convection flow occurs in the same or opposite direction, in the same or opposite direction to that of forced convection, to that of forced convection, to that of forced convection. So case number 1 we are going to discuss. Case 1, mixed convection for internal flow, mixed convection for internal flow through horizontal pipe, through horizontal pipe. Case number 1, mixed convection for internal flow, mixed convection for internal flow through horizontal pipe, through horizontal pipe, through horizontal pipe. In that first one, for laminar flow, for laminar flow, laminar flow will be considered when Reynolds number is less than or equal to 2000. Laminar flow will be considered when Reynolds number is less than equal to 2000. So in that case, average Nusselt number will be provided as average Nusselt number is equal to 1.75, 1.75 inside a bracket mu suffix b divided by mu suffix s, mu suffix b divided by mu suffix s, bracket raised to 0.14, bracket raised to 0.14, in another square bracket gz, gz plus 0.012, 0.012 inside bracket gz multiply by gr raised to 1 by 3. Okay, here the rest factor inside bracket is only for gr. Okay, this rest factor is only for gr. Okay, and then whole bracket complete, and another rest factor is for gz and gr. Okay, raised to 4 by 3, raised to 4 by 3, and once again square bracket complete and square bracket raised to 1 by 3, square bracket complete raised to 1 by 3. Now this is called Brown and Govin equation. Okay, this is Brown and Govin equation. This is Brown and Govin equation, where in this particular equation mu suffix b, where mu suffix b is equal to viscosity at bulk mean temperature, viscosity at bulk mean temperature. Now you are familiar with this particular term, bulk mean temperature or mean film temperature. Okay, bulk mean temperature or mean film temperature. It is the average temperature of surface and fluid. It is the average temperature of surface and the fluid. Okay, so mu suffix b is equal to viscosity at bulk mean temperature, and mu suffix s is equal to viscosity at surface temperature. Okay, viscosity at surface temperature. Whereas gz is nothing but Gray's number. Gray's number. Okay, so Gray's number, we have seen the significance of Gray's number. Gray's number is only used for the flow through pipe. Okay, Gray's number is only used for flow through pipe. Okay, and I think its formula is pi by 4 multiplied by Reynolds number multiplied by Prandtl number multiplied by d divided by L. Okay, so that is the formula of Gray's number. Okay, then for the turbulent flow through pipe. Okay, turbulent flow, when we have to consider the flow is turbulent, when the Reynolds number is greater than 2000. Okay, for the flow through pipe, if the Reynolds number is greater than 2000, then we have to consider that flow is turbulent one. Okay, for turbulent flow through horizontal pipe, for the turbulent flow through horizontal pipe, so in that case nozzle number, average nozzle number is given as, average nozzle number is given as nu bar is equal to 4.69, nu bar is equal to 4.69 Reynolds number raised to 0.27 multiply by Prandtl number raised to 0.21 multiply by Grashoff's number raised to 0.07 multiply by inside bracket d divided by L bracket raised to 0.36. 0.36. So this equation is called or the name given to this equation is Matthijs and Eckert equation, because these are the scientist names, and they discover this equation, so that the name of scientist is provided to this equation. Okay, okay, so then further we have to discuss one problem on this particular point, and then we will move ahead for the next chapter. Okay, so problem number one, only one problem we are going to consider, because if once you understood the problem, how to solve the problem on this point, then by your own also you can solve the different problems from the assignment booklet or from the book I have shared with you. Okay, so air at 1 atm, that is 1 atmospheric pressure, air at 1 atm and 20 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius, air at 1 atm and 20 degrees Celsius is forced through air at 1 atm and 20 degrees Celsius is forced through a 15 mm diameter, 15 mm diameter tube tube at an average velocity of 20 centimeter per second, at an average velocity of 20 centimeter per second. Okay, full stop. The tube wall is maintained. The tube wall is maintained at a temperature of, the tube wall is maintained at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius. The tube wall is maintained at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, full stop. The tube is 1 meter long. The tube is 1 meter long. Full stop. Calculate the rate of heat transfer. Calculate the rate of heat transfer. Calculate the rate of heat transfer. Okay, so the air is flowing through the tube. Okay, the given data is provided, that is tube diameter is provided, tube length is provided, then the flow velocity is provided. Okay, and the pressure is also provided, that 1 atm atmospheric pressure is there. Okay, average velocity is provided, and we have to calculate the rate of heat transfer. We have to calculate the rate of heat transfer. Okay, so first of all, we will write some given data, whatever provided to us in this particular problem statement. So first is nothing but diameter of the tube is provided, which is equal to 0.015 meter. Then length of tube is provided, which is equal to 1 meter. Then velocity is provided. It is in a centimeter per second, so we have to consider it in a meter per second. Okay, so velocity is equal to 0.2 meter per second. Okay, then surface temperature of a tube is provided. Okay, that will be considered as a T suffix S, and which is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. Then the fluid temperature, that is air temperature, is provided. So T suffix A is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. T suffix A is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, so write down the given data in this manner. Now, first of all, we have to decide whether the flow is laminar one or turbulent one. Okay, first of all, we have to decide the flow is laminar one or turbulent one. So flow condition we will get from the Reynolds number. Okay, we will get the flow condition from the Reynolds number, and Reynolds number is given as rho Vd divided by mu or Vd divided by nu. Okay, density multiplied by velocity multiplied by hydraulic diameter or characteristic length divided by dynamic viscosity. That will provide you the Reynolds number, or we can say that velocity multiplied by hydraulic diameter or the characteristic length divided by kinematic viscosity is nothing but a Reynolds number. Now, to determine this Reynolds number, we required the properties of a fluid. We required the properties of a fluid, but in the problem statement, the properties are not provided. So in that case, we have to refer the property table. Okay, we have to refer the property table, and okay, so this kind of a table we have to refer. Okay, so now the question is that at what temperature we have to calculate the properties, or we have to consider the properties of air. Okay, we have to consider the properties of air. So solution for that is nothing but we have to consider the properties of air or a fluid at a bulk mean temperature. Okay, at a bulk mean temperature, that is nothing but T suffix Fm. So for that reason, we have to calculate the bulk mean temperature. So you can write bulk mean temperature will be given as T suffix Fm, which is equal to T suffix S plus T suffix A is equal to divided by 2. Okay, divided by 2. Surface temperature plus fluid temperature divided by 2, that is nothing but average temperature of a surface and fluid. And surface temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, fluid temperature is 20 degrees Celsius, divided by 2. 120 divided by 2 will get 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, will get 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, now we have to consider the air properties at 1 atmospheric pressure and 60 degrees Celsius. We have to consider the air properties at 1 atmospheric pressure and 60 degrees Celsius. So you can also download this property table. Okay, directly you can search the air property table at 1 atmospheric pressure. You will get this particular table. So we get the bulk mean temperature as 60 degrees Celsius. So we have to consider the properties of air at 60 degrees Celsius. So check where is the 60 degrees Celsius. So I get this 60 degrees Celsius here, and I have to consider the properties of air at 60 degrees Celsius. So the density equal to 1.059 kg per meter cube, specific heat 1007 joule per kg Kelvin, then thermal conductivity 0.02808 watt per meter Kelvin, then thermal diffusivity 2.632 into 10 raised to minus 5 meter square per second, then dynamic viscosity 2.008 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 5, then kinematic viscosity 1.896 into 10 raised to minus 5, and the last one is Prandtl number, which is equal to 0.7202. Okay, which is equal to 0.7202. So in this fashion, we have to find out the properties of the air or the fluid from the property table. Okay, so all the properties I have written over here. Properties of air at atmospheric pressure and 60 degrees Celsius. So density is equal to 1.059. You can write these properties. Rho is equal to 1.059 kg per meter cube. Then Cp is 1007 joule per kg Kelvin. 1007 joule per kg Kelvin. Then thermal conductivity. Thermal conductivity is K is equal to 0.02808. Then mu suffix B, because we are considering this dynamic viscosity at bulk mean temperature. So that will be considered as a dynamic viscosity at a bulk mean temperature, which is equal to 2.008 into 10 raised to minus 5 kg per meter second. Okay, per meter per second. Okay. Then kinematic viscosity. Kinematic viscosity at 60 degrees Celsius we get 1.896 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 5 meter square per second. Meter square per second. And the last one is Prandtl number. Prandtl number at bulk mean temperature. Prandtl number is equal to 0.7202. Okay, 0.7202. Another value we may require, that is the dynamic viscosity at surface temperature. What is our surface temperature? Surface temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. So go to property table, check the dynamic viscosity at 100 degrees Celsius. So here is 100 degrees Celsius and the dynamic viscosity. Okay, so this is the dynamic viscosity, refers to the 100 degrees Celsius, and which is equal to 2.181 into 10 raised to minus 5 kg per meter per second. Okay, kg per meter per second. Okay, so that particular dynamic viscosity we have considered at a surface temperature. So we have provided the significance or the symbol for that dynamic viscosity as mu suffix s is equal to 2.181 into 10 raised to minus 5 kg per meter per second. Kg per meter per second. Okay. So our first check will be the flow type. Okay. Our first check will be the flow type, whether the flow is laminar one or turbulent one. Okay. So flow type. So flow type will be determined by using the Reynolds number. Okay. Reynolds number signifies you whether the flow is laminar one or turbulent one. So Reynolds number can be given as rho Vd divided by nu or Vd divided by nu. Okay, rho Vd divided by mu or Vd divided by nu, because dynamic viscosity divided by density is nothing but kinematic viscosity. So here we are considering Vd divided by nu, that is nothing but kinematic viscosity. Okay, nu is kinematic viscosity. Now for the circular pipe and flow through the circular pipe, the characteristic length of that particular pipe is nothing but its diameter. Okay, characteristic length of that particular pipe is nothing but inside the diameter of that pipe through which the flow is flowing. Okay, so 0.2 is the velocity of the flow, multiplied by 0.015 is the diameter, and whole divided by kinematic viscosity, and kinematic viscosity is 1.896 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 5. So I'm getting 158.27. Please check whether you are getting the same value of a Reynolds number or not. 158.27, or you are getting different one. Please let me know. Okay, so this particular Reynolds number value is lesser than 2000, so we can say that the flow is laminar one. The flow is laminar one. So Reynolds number provide you the flow type. Okay. The second thing is nothing but we have to check that whether the convection type is natural convection or forced convection or combination of free and forced convection, or natural and forced convection. So for that reason, we require two values. First one is nothing but Reynolds number, and second one is nothing but a Grashoff's number. So second value we need to calculate, that is nothing but Grashoff's number. So Grashoff's number can be given as Grashoff's number is equal to G beta delta T multiplied by L cube divided by nu square. Okay, where G is nothing but acceleration due to gravity, beta is the volumetric coefficient of volumetric expansion, delta T is the temperature difference between the surface and fluid, multiplied by L cube is nothing but the length square, length cube. Okay, and nu square is nothing but the kinematic viscosity square. Okay, so in this particular value, in this particular formula, all the values are known to you, but only beta is unknown. So first of all, we need to calculate the beta. So beta is the reciprocal of absolute mean film temperature. Okay, reciprocal of absolute mean film temperature. Already we have calculated the mean film temperature as a 60 degrees Celsius. Add 273 degrees Celsius in that and take the reciprocal of that, so that we will get 1 divided by 60 plus 273. So we'll get 0.003003 Kelvin raised to minus 1. Kelvin raised to minus 1 is the unit of beta. Unit of beta. Okay, please check whether you are getting the same value or not. Okay, please let me know whether you are getting the Reynolds number 158.27 and beta value at 0.003003. Okay, so if you get this same beta value, then put up the all the values of variables in this Grashoff's number formula and calculate Grashoff's number. Calculate Grashoff's number. So G is 9.81, beta is 0.003003, multiplied by delta T is the temperature difference. So 100 minus 20, and in our pipe case, the hydraulic diameter, or we can say that the characteristic length of the pipe is equal to the diameter of that particular pipe. So diameter of the pipe is 0.015. So hydraulic diameter or the characteristic length we have to consider as 0.015, and its cube is there. So divided by nu square, nu value is 1.896 into 10 raised to minus 5 and bracket square. Okay, and bracket square, and calculate the Grashoff's number. Everyone, put up your all three values in the chat box. Grashoff's number, Reynolds number, and beta. Reynolds number, beta, and Grashoff's number. Have you calculated Grashoff's number, everyone? So I'm getting Grashoff's number 2.2126 into 10 raised to 4. Please check whether you are getting the same value or different one. If you have different value, please comment in the chat box. Okay, because I may be wrong. I have done some mistakes. If I have done some mistakes in calculation, then that will be reflected. Okay, okay, okay. So 0. Reynolds number 158.22, right? 0.003003 beta is right, and Grashoff's number 2.20. Okay, so some point difference into 10 raised to 5. 4 is there or not for the Grashoff's number? Grashoff's number 2.208. Okay, so some slight difference is there. So 22. Okay, great, great. Then it will be right. Grashoff's number is equal to 2126 into 10 raised to 4, or 22.126 into 10 raised to 4, 10 raised to 3. Okay, so right, these are the right values. Now we have to check that whether the convection type is free convection or forced convection, or combination of free and forced convection. So convection type, to check the convection type, we have to take the ratio of Grashoff's numbers to the Reynolds number square. Okay, we have to consider the ratio of Grashoff's number to the Reynolds number square. So Grashoff's number is our 2.2126 into 10 raised to 4, and Reynolds number is 158.27, and we have to consider its square. Okay, so I get the value of this particular ratio as 0.88331. Okay, 0.88331. So as our cases, that Grashoff's number divided by R square cases, if this value is greater than 0.1 and less than 10, then we have to consider the convection type is the combination of a free convection and forced convection. Okay, free convection and forced convection. So you can write as this ratio is in between. If you are getting the same values, okay. If you are getting the same values, then you can write. So do calculation. Grashoff's number divided by Reynolds number square. Whether you are getting the same value or not, 0.88331. If yes, then you can write, as this ratio is in between 0.1 to 10, this problem is of mixed convection. Okay, this problem is of mixed convection. This problem is of mixed convection. Therefore, we can use the relation. Therefore, we can use the relation for mixed convection. For mixed convection, and that too for laminar flow through pipe, and that too for laminar flow through pipe. Okay, laminar flow through pipe. Okay, so which equation we have to consider? Nu bar is equal to 1.75 inside bracket mu b divided by mu suffix x, mu suffix s bracket complete raised to 0.14 in square bracket gz plus 0.012 inside bracket gz multiplied by Grashoff's number raised to 1 by 3 bracket complete raised to 4 by 3 square bracket complete raised to 1 by 3. Okay, so this relation we have to consider for the average Reynolds number. Then in this equation, Grashoff's number is known, mu b is known, mu suffix s is known, only Gray's number we need to calculate. So Gray's number is calculated for only for the flow through pipe. Okay, flow through pipe के लिए हम Gray's number use कर सकते हैं. So Gray's number, which is equal to pi by 4 multiplied by Reynolds number multiplied by Prandtl number multiplied by d divided by L. Okay, d divided by L, where d is the diameter of the pipe and L is the length of the pipe. Where d is the diameter of the pipe and L is the length of the pipe. So length is provided to as 1 meter only. So we can consider 1 meter length, and we can put up all the values of Reynolds number, Prandtl number, diameter, and length, and calculate the Gray's number. So pi by 4 multiply by 158.27 multiply by 0.7202 multiply by 0.015 divided by 1. So I'm getting Gray's number is equal to 1.3428. Please check whether you are getting the same value or not. Gray's number, you can put up your value of Gray's number in the chat box. 1.3428. Okay, great. You are getting the same value as of me. So there is no difference in the value. So we can move ahead for the further calculation. Now put up all the values. Okay, put up all the values in this particular equation. As we have calculated Gray's number, that is the only one unknown from this equation. So put up all the values of variables in this equation and calculate NU bar. Okay, NU bar. Okay, that is average Nusselt number. Average Nusselt number. So 1.75 as it is inside bracket mu b is that is a dynamic viscosity at bulk mean temperature is 2.008 into 10 raised to minus 5, and dynamic viscosity at surface temperature, that is mu suffix s, is 2.181 into 10 raised to minus 5 bracket raised to 0.14 in square bracket 1.3428. This is the Gray's number plus 0.012 multiply by inside bracket Gray's number as it is 1.34 multiply by Grashoff's number. Grashoff's number is 2.2126 multiply by 10 raised to 4 bracket raised to 1 by 3. Grashoff's number raised to 1 by 3 is there. So we have to consider the bracket raised to 1 by 3. Bracket complete. Okay. Bracket complete and it's raised to 4 by 3. Then square bracket complete and it's raised to 1 by 3. Okay. So do proper calculation and calculate average Nusselt number and put up your value of average Nusselt number in the chat box. I'm getting average Nusselt number as 2.418 now. 2.4189. Please check whether you are getting the same value or not. If you have any different value, then you can comment in the chat box. Do calculation everyone and put up your Nusselt number value, average Nusselt number value 2.45. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? 2.452. 2.44. Okay, 2.448, 448, then 445, 45. No problem. Okay, then I will change this value 2.45. I will write 2.45. No issue. 448 we can combine as 2.45 also. Okay, so take it. So Nusselt number we will get 2.45. Okay. So now we have to calculate the heat transfer coefficient, because our ultimate goal or outcome is nothing but the heat transfer rate, and to calculate the heat transfer rate we required the heat transfer coefficient. So as per the Nusselt number formula, we know that the Nusselt number is equal to HLC divided by K, or H bar we are considering the average Nusselt number. So the heat transfer coefficient will be the average heat transfer coefficient. So we have to consider H bar multiplied by LC divided by K, where LC is nothing but the characteristic length or hydraulic diameter. So we can write this as H bar D divided by K, as in case of circular pipe, the diameter of the pipe is the characteristic length or hydraulic diameter. Okay. So H bar D divided by K, that is nothing but Nusselt number. So in this case, H bar is only unknown. Nu we have calculated, Nusselt number we have calculated, K is the given quantity, and D is also, K is the property we have taken from the property table, and D is the given quantity. So we can calculate H bar. So H bar is equal to Nu bar multiplied by K divided by D. Okay. So I have changed this value. So this answer will also change. Okay. 4.52. This answer also change. So please put up your answer in the chat box for H bar. 4.59. Okay. 4.59. Okay. 4.59. I will consider this 4.59. Others are getting the same answer, 4.59 for the H bar. If you are getting this answer 4.59, then we have to do the last calculation, that heat transfer rate per meter length, or heat transfer rate per unit length. Okay, heat transfer rate per unit length. So in this case, we have to consider the Newton's law of cooling, that is nothing but Q is equal to HA delta T, or in this case our H is average heat transfer coefficient, so that we are taking the H bar multiply by A multiply by delta T. Okay, so where it is equal to H bar multiply by pi dl, where the pi dl is the surface area available for the heat transfer, total surface area of the pipe available for the heat transfer, multiply by Ts minus Ta, that is the surface temperature minus fluid temperature. Okay, so put up the values, and if you want to determine this Q by L, then you can transfer this L, okay, length of the pipe. So we will get the heat transfer rate in a meter per second. So Q by L, you can transfer this on the another side. So if you transfer the L on another side, it will be Q by L. Okay, Q by L. So already the length is 1 meter only. Okay, so if you transfer this, and you can write in this fashion, or if you did not transfer this, then also no problem in this question. But keep in mind, if the length is different one, in that case we have to transfer the length on the another side, or length is not provided in the problem statement. So we have to determine the answer in watt per meter, so that we have to transfer the length to the another side. So it will be the Q by L. Okay, Q by L, which is equal to 4.52, 4.59. Okay, I will change here, 4.59 into pi into D. D is 0.015 multiplied by 100 minus 20. So the final answer also get changed. Tell me the final answer. 17.29, 30. Okay, 17.30. All right, 17.30 watt per meter. Okay, so this is our final answer. So in this fashion, we have to solve the problems on a mixed convection. So the major question is about the empirical correlation. You have to remember some of the empirical relations, or we can say that if you remember these two empirical relation for the flow through pipe, okay, for the flow through pipe, and if the question will be asked on this flow through pipe and empirical correlations are not provided, then only we have to consider these empirical correlations. But most of the time, for the combined flow condition or combined forced condition, combined convection type, the empirical correlations are provided, and you have to use these empirical relations, and then you have to solve the problems. Okay, and properties are also provided in the problem, because up till now they have not provided the property table for the HMT papers, okay, heat transfer papers. So that the properties also provided in the problem statement, no issue. So we have to consider that properties only, and if not provided, okay, if not provided, then property table will be provided to you. Okay. So is there any question, any doubt out of these particular points or this particular problem? Okay, you have to remember the steps, and you have to implement that steps whenever there is a problem related to the combined forced and free convection. Okay, is there any doubt, any question? So last answer you can write Q is equal to 17.30 watt per meter. Okay, so this chapter we have successfully completed chapter number 4, that is convection. But according to our syllabus, this is chapter number 4, and we have covered up till now 3 chapters. Okay, our 3 chapters are remaining still. So without wasting much more time, we'll start with the chapter number 5. Okay, so chapter number 5, name of the chapter is boiling and condensation. Boiling and condensation. Boiling and condensation. So chapter is very small as compared to the previous chapter, like first chapter. Then this is the convection chapter. Okay, we will require hardly 5 lectures to complete this boiling and condensation, and within 2 to 3 days it will be complete. Chapter is completely theoretical chapter. Okay, there will not be any problems on this particular chapter. Okay, write down the heading, chapter number 5, boiling and condensation. Boiling and condensation. Syllabus under this particular chapter is full boiling curves, comma, forced boiling curves, Then techniques for enhancement of boiling, comma, film wise and drop wise condensation, comma, Nusselt's theory of condensation. Okay, so this much syllabus university has provided under this particular chapter, boiling and condensation. Okay, Nusselt's theory of condensation. Okay, so what is meant by boiling and what is meant by condensation? We will start from the scratch. Okay, boiling means what? The boiling means पाणी उकळणे. मराठीमध्ये आपण सहज म्हणू शकतो पाणी उकळणे म्हणजे बॉइलिंग. ओके, किंवा एखादं फ्लुइड फेज चेंज करतं. ओके, changing the phase of liquid to vapor, that is nothing but what? Boiling. And in a simplest format, the reversal of boiling is nothing but condensation. Okay, reversal means what? Converting the phase from vapor to liquid. That is nothing but condensation. Converting the phase from vapor to liquid. That is nothing but condensation. Then what happened while boiling and while condensation? Okay, so to convert the, consider water. Okay, we want to boil the water. So boiling of water will happen at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, boiling of water will happen at 100 degrees Celsius. So the temperature at which the substance changes its phase, okay, the substance changes its phase or matter changes its phase, that particular temperature is called as a saturation temperature. That particular temperature is called as a saturation temperature. And the saturation temperature having one condition. Okay, the saturation temperature is also having some condition. That is nothing but what? The pressure. Pressure is the condition for the saturation temperature. If you vary the surface pressure of a liquid, okay, if you vary the surface pressure of a liquid, then the saturation temperature get changed. Okay, so for boiling of a water, the saturation temperature is 100 degrees Celsius if the pressure on the surface of a liquid is 1 atmospheric pressure. Okay, is 1 atmospheric pressure or 1 bar pressure, we can say that 1 bar pressure. So at that condition only, the water will get boiled at 100 degrees Celsius. If you change the atmospheric pressure, then the saturation temperature or phase change temperature also get changed. Okay, the phase change temperature also get changed. Okay, so normal condition to boil the water at 100 degrees Celsius is 1 atmospheric pressure on the surface of that particular water. Okay, 1 atmospheric pressure, that is normal air pressure on that particular surface of liquid. Okay, so you might be remember one thing, that uh, at the sea level, more time is required to boil the liquid, okay, or to boil the water. And at the mountain level, okay, at the mountain level, uh, आपण पर्वतावर म्हणू शकतो किंवा डोंगरावर म्हणू शकतो, at mountain level less time is required to boil the water. Okay, why this happen? Because at the mountain level the atmospheric pressure get reduced, and because of that the less time is required, or we can say that the water will not boil at 100 degrees Celsius. It start boiling at 90 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Celsius. Where at sea level, the atmospheric pressure is very high as compared to the mountain level. Okay, so it is greater than 1 atmosphere also maybe, and because of that, the temperature required to convert the liquid phase of water to vapor phase, we required more temperature. Okay, we were, okay, sorry for the interruption once again. At the sea level, the more pressure as compared to the mountain level, and because of that, the water will not boil at 100 degrees Celsius. Rather than it will boil at 105, 106 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this is the difference in the saturation temperature at a different pressures. This is the difference at a difference in a boiling temperature or a saturation temperature. What is meant by saturation temperature? The temperature at which the liquid changes its phase to vapor, or vapor changes its phase to liquid. So that particular temperature is called as a saturation temperature. Okay, and if the liquid changes its phase from liquid state to the vapor state, then that particular process is called as a boiling process. And the vapor changes its phase from vapor to liquid, then that particular process is called as a condensation process. Okay, that particular process is called as a condensation process. Okay, so you remember that the 100 at 100 degrees Celsius will get, if you consider the atmospheric pressure on the liquid surface, then what is the difference? At 100 degrees Celsius, you will get uh, the liquid state also, and at 100 degrees Celsius, you will get the vapor state also. Okay, so then what is the difference? So you remember one heat, that is nothing but latent heat. So difference is about the latent heat. So at 100 degrees Celsius, if you add up the latent heat in the liquid, then that particular liquid will get evaporated. And if you remove out the latent heat from the vapor at 100 degrees Celsius, then that particular vapor will get condensed and it will convert from the vapor state to the liquid state. So the difference is about the latent heat. Difference is about the latent heat. So we can say that boiling, it is the process of a conversion of a liquid into vapor. Okay, whereas the two phases of a matter are associated with this particular boiling process. First one is the liquid state and another one is the vapor state. Whereas condensation is nothing but the process of conversion of vapor into liquid. The process of conversion of vapor into liquid, that is nothing but condensation process. And the two states of a matter also included in this particular condensation process. First one is, we can say that is, we can say vapor and liquid. Okay, vapor and liquid. Vapor and liquid. First phase is vapor and the second one is liquid. Okay, now how the how we can say that the heat is transferred in a boiling and condensation. How the heat is transferred in a boiling and condensation? We know that first thing is nothing but the phase change. Phase changes happen because of a latent heat. Phase changes happen because of a latent heat at a saturation temperature. Okay, at a saturation temperature. So because of a phase change also, the heat is transferred in a boiling and condensation. Okay, boiling also a phase change process and condensation also a phase change process. So this heat, during this particular process, the heat transfer will happen. And which are the different parameters are included in this particular heat transfer? First one is nothing but phase change. Okay, phase change. Second parameter is the latent heat. Third parameter is the surface tension. Then next parameter is density of a liquid, and the last one is density of vapor. These particular parameters are included in the boiling and condensation heat transfer. Okay, so phase change, for the phase change we require the latent heat. Okay, at a saturation temperature. As the temperature goes on increasing, the value of a surface temperature also goes on changing. Density of a liquid goes on decreasing. Okay, and density of a vapor, when we are considering the condensation process, in that case also the density of a vapor goes on increasing. Okay, when we are changing vapor to the liquid state, when we are changing fluid state from vapor to the liquid state, then in that case the vapor density goes on increasing. And when we are changing the state from liquid to vapor, in that case the liquid density goes on decreasing. As we know that as the temperature goes on increasing, the density of a liquid or a fluid goes on decreasing. Okay, so these parameters are included for the boiling and condensation heat transfer, and because of that the heat transfer will happen in the process of boiling and condensation. Then what are the different applications of boiling and condensation? So we know that the nuclear reactor, where the large amount of heat is generated, and at an instant of a time we have to remove out that heat to reduce the damage to the plant. Then the rocket motors, we know that the rocket motors, if you're watch the launching of any rocket, then you come to know that the continuous gas is coming out of that particular rockets. Okay, before the start of that particular rocket, the continuous gases coming out of the rockets, and this is the cooling process. Okay, cooling process is required for the rocket motors, so that the more damage will not be provided because of the heat generation, large amount of heat generation through that particular rocket engines. Okay, so the cooling procedure is provided to the rocket motors. Then steam power plants where the steam is generated. So boiling and condensation phenomena is the most important in case of steam power plant, as the steam is generated and the boiling phenomena is used to generate the steam. Then refrigeration and air conditioning. Okay, refrigeration and air conditioner. So complete phenomena, refrigeration and air conditioning application is completely depend upon boiling and condensation. Where in evaporator, the boiling of refrigerant will happen, and whereas in condenser, the condensation of that particular refrigerant will happen. Okay, and the heat will be extracted from the compact zone by using the boiling phenomena, whereas the heat is removed out from the system to the surrounding by using the condensation phenomena. Then melting of the metal in the furnace. Okay, so this is also boiling phenomena. Then heat exchanger used in refineries and sugar mills. We know that sugar juice we need to boil before convert it into from juice into sugar. We have to boil that particular sugar juice. So for that reason, more effectiveness is required and more efficient device is required. So that need will be fulfilled by highly effective or highly efficient heat exchangers. Okay, and this is once again a boiling and condensation phenomena. Then heating and cooling process. All the heating and cooling process. If you say that daily in your daily routine also, in your kitchen also, these phenomena are continuously happening, and these all there are n number of applications of this particular boiling and condensation phenomena. Some are listed over here. Okay, so further is the classification of a boiling and condensation. How the boiling, not condensation, we are dealing with the boiling now only. So how the boiling will be classified. Okay, so first they are classified as a pool boiling and the flow boiling. Okay, so in pool boiling there is no external agency is used, okay, to move the fluid, and the movement of a fluid is happen because of a natural convection only. Natural convection happen because of a density difference, and density difference happens because of a temperature difference. Okay, so there is in pool boiling we can say that there is no external agency is used for the flow of fluid. Uh, the fluid is stationary one, and the movement in the fluid is happen because of a natural convection only, and a movement of a bubbles under the buoyancy effects. Okay, when we start boiling, the bubble formation will start in that particular regions of a heat, or we can say that heater region. Okay, or at the bottom of that particular device, the bubbles start formation, and these bubbles, when it will detach from the surface, so this will be travel to the surface, and it will be go out of the liquid. Okay, so the pool boiling is what? In pool boiling there is no bulk fluid flow, and any motion of the fluid is due to natural convection and the movement of bubbles under the buoyancy effects. Buoyancy effect means the force which lift the material, or we can say that the liquid or the air in opposite direction to the gravitational force. In opposite direction to the gravitational force. So that particular force, we know that is nothing but buoyancy force, and because of that bubbles are moving in the upward direction. We can say that, or the fluid or the air is moving in the upward direction due to temperature difference. Okay, then second one, classification of boiling is flow boiling or forced boiling. When boiling occurs while fluid is in motion under the influence of a pump, it is called as a flow boiling. Okay, and it is also called as a forced boiling. Okay, so if any external agency we are using for the motion of a fluid, and during that motion of a fluid the boiling is happening, then that particular boiling is called as a flow boiling or forced boiling. Okay, that particular boiling is called flow boiling or a forced boiling. Once again, these two classification further classified as subcooled boiling and saturated boiling. Okay, So first two classification we have discussed. One is pool boiling. Okay, there is no any motion in the molecule. There is no any motion in the fluid. If the fluid is moving, that movement is because of a convection only, natural convection only. Okay, this is nothing but pool boiling. And flow boiling means what? We are using external pump to flow the fluid, and during that flowing, the boiling of a liquid will happen. That particular boiling is called as a flow boiling and forced boiling. Now this pool boiling and forced boiling further classified as subcooled boiling and saturated boiling. Subcooled boiling and saturated boiling. If the temperature of liquid is below the saturation temperature and the boiling happen, then that particular boiling is called as a subcooled boiling. Then that particular boiling is called as a subcooled boiling. Here you have to remember that what is meant by saturation temperature. The temperature at which fluid changes its phase from liquid to vapor or vapor to liquid. That particular temperature is nothing but saturation temperature. Okay, and if the boiling is happening below saturation temperature, okay, boiling in the liquid is happening below saturation temperature, then that particular boiling is called as a subcooled boiling. Then that particular boiling is called as a subcooled boiling. Whereas saturation boiling means what? If the liquid temperature is maintained at a saturation temperature, okay, if the liquid temperature is maintained at a saturation temperature, then that particular boiling is called as a saturation boiling. Okay, then that particular boiling is called as a saturation boiling. Getting everyone? The difference between pool boiling and flow boiling, and also difference between subcooled boiling and saturation boiling. Okay, now further, since this boiling phenomena is associated with the fluid, and when the heat is transferred from the surface to the fluid, or heat is transferred because of the motion of the fluid, that heat transfer is nothing but a convection heat transfer. Okay, so boiling heat flux. Heat flux means what? Heat transfer rate per unit area is given by Newton's law of cooling. Boiling heat flux, that is nothing but heat transfer rate per unit area, is given by Newton's law of cooling. So in that case, while boiling is happening, the heat transfer rate is given as Q boiling, that is the boiling heat transfer rate, which is equal to H multiplied by A multiplied by Ts minus T saturation, where the Ts is nothing but the surface temperature. Okay, if you are using the heater to heat the liquid or to boil the liquid, then the surface temperature of that particular heater will be considered as a T suffix S, and the boiling will start when the liquid will attain its saturation temperature. Okay, and the heat transfer during the boiling we will get at the saturation temperature only. Okay, at the saturation temperature only. So for that reason, we have taken the difference between the surface temperature and the saturation temperature. Okay, the difference between the surface temperature and saturation temperature. Let us say that you want to determine the heat transfer rate from the liquid, or by the boiling. Okay, if you submerge the heater in the liquid, and the heater temperature you have maintained at 120 degrees Celsius, and boiling of that particular liquid will start at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so 120 minus 100, okay, 120 minus 100, that will be multiplied by surface area multiplied by H. That will be your boiling heat transfer rate. That will be your boiling heat transfer rate. And heat transfer rate per unit area, heat transfer rate per unit area is nothing but heat flux. And heat flux in this case, we will get as Q boiling divided by area is equal to H multiplied by delta T. Okay, so here I have used one more symbol, that is nothing but delta T suffix E. So delta T suffix E is signifies the excess temperature. Okay, it will signifies the excess temperature. Excess temperature means सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर से कितना ज्यादा सरफेस का टेम्परेचर है, सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर से कितना ज्यादा सरफेस का टेम्परेचर है, वो टेम्परेचर मतलब क्या होता है, एक्सेस टेम्परेचर. सो डेल्टा टी इज नथिंग बट once again, Ts minus T saturation, T suffix S minus T saturation, where we can say that delta TE is equal to T saturation minus T suffix S, that is surface temperature, minus saturation temperature, which is nothing but excess temperature, which is nothing but excess temperature. And the curves which are drawn against the heat flux versus excess temperature, that particular curves are called as a boiling curves. Okay, we have to draw the curves for heat flux, variation of the heat flux versus the excess temperature. Excess temperature will be on a x-axis, and uh, heat flux will be on a y-axis. That particular curves are called as a boiling curve. That curves are called as a boiling curve. So pool boiling curve we are going to discuss in the next lecture. So pool boiling curve will be drawn in such a manner that we have to consider the excess temperature on the x-axis, whereas we have to consider the heat flux, that is heat transfer rate per unit area, on the y-axis, and we have to draw this particular boiling curves, and we have to discuss the various regimes of boiling. Various regimes of boiling means what will happen, the excess temperature will be this much, what will they happen, excess temperature will be this much. Okay, so that is nothing but we will get the different regions of a boiling. Okay, different phases of a boiling. Okay, so that we will discuss in the next lecture, but until now whatever we have discussed, we'll complete that right up part. Okay, if you have any doubt, any question, you can ask. Okay, so write down boiling. Boiling means what? Write down the boiling. It is the process of, it is the process of, it is a process of conversion of liquid. It is a process of conversion of liquid. It is the process of conversion of liquid into vapor. It is a process of conversion of liquid into vapor. It is conversion of liquid into vapor. Second point, two phases associated. Second point, two phases associated. Two phases associated. First one is liquid. First one is liquid, and second one is vapor. Okay. Then the condensation. Condensation. Condensation, it is the process of conversion of condensation. It is the process of conversion of vapor into liquid. It is a process of conversion of vapor into liquid. Then two phases associated with condensation are, first one is vapor and second one is liquid. First one is vapor and second one is liquid. Then you can write boiling and condensation heat transfer is due to, boiling and condensation Heat transfer is due to boiling and condensation. Heat transfer is due to first one phase change. First one phase change. Second one latent heat. Phase change. Second one latent heat. Third one surface tension. Surface tension. Fourth one density of liquid. Density of liquid. Density of liquid. And fifth one density of vapor. Density of vapor. Then applications of boiling and condensation. Applications of boiling and condensation. First one is cooling of nuclear reactors. Cooling of nuclear reactors and rocket motors. And rocket motors. Then second one steam power plant. Steam power plant. Then refrigeration and air conditioning. Refrigeration and air conditioning. Refrigeration and air conditioning. Then melting of metals in the furnace. Melting of metals in the furnace. Melting of metals in the furnace. Then heat exchangers in refineries and sugar mills. Heat exchanger in refineries and sugar mills. Sixth one, heating and cooling process. Heating and cooling process. Heating and cooling process. Okay. Your next heading, classification of boiling. Classification of boiling. Classification of boiling. Boiling is generally classified as. Boiling is generally classified as First one, pool boiling. Pool boiling. In that, write down, in pool boiling, there is no bulk fluid flow. In pool boiling, there is no bulk fluid flow. In pool boiling, there is no bulk fluid flow. Comma, and any motion of the fluid, comma, and any motion of the fluid, any motion of the fluid is due to natural convection, is due to natural convection, is due to natural convection, and movement of bubbles, and movement of bubbles, and movement of bubbles under buoyancy effects, under buoyancy effects. Then second classification is flow boiling oblique forced boiling, flow boiling oblique forced boiling, flow boiling oblique forced boiling. In that you can write, when boiling occurs, when boiling occurs while fluid is in motion, when boiling occurs while fluid is in motion, while fluid is in motion, under the influence of pump, under the influence of pump, under the influence of pump, it is called flow boiling. It is called flow boiling. Full stop. Next point. These two modes of boiling, these two modes of boiling are further classified as, these two modes of boiling are further classified as, first one, subcooled boiling, subcooled boiling, subcooled boiling. In that you can write, if the temperature of liquid, if the temperature of liquid is below the saturation temperature, if the temperature of liquid is below the saturation temperature, in bracket T saturation, saturation temperature, we are giving the symbol for saturation temperature as T suffix SAT, that is T saturation, bracket complete. The boiling is referred as subcooled boiling. The boiling is referred as subcooled boiling. The boiling is referred as subcooled boiling. Then second one, saturated boiling. Saturated boiling. In that you can write, if the temperature of liquid, if the temperature of liquid is maintained at, if the temperature of liquid is maintained at saturation temperature, if the temperature of liquid is maintained at saturation temperature, the boiling is called as saturation boiling. The boiling is called as saturation boiling. The boiling is called as the saturation boiling. Okay. Then next you can write, since boiling is form of convection heat transfer, since boiling, since boiling is a form of convection heat transfer, boiling heat flux is given by, boiling heat flux is given by Newton's law of cooling. Boiling heat flux is given by Newton's law of cooling. In that case, boiling heat transfer is given as Q boiling is equal to Q boiling, Q suffix boiling is equal to H multiplied by A multiplied by inside bracket Ts minus T saturation, H multiplied by A multiplied by inside bracket Ts minus T saturation. Then Q boiling divided by area, that is heat flux. Heat transfer rate per unit area is nothing but heat flux. Q boiling divided by area is equal to H multiplied by delta T suffix E, where delta T suffix E is equal to Ts minus T saturation, which is equal to excess temperature. Excess temperature. Excess temperature. Okay. Is there any doubt, any question up till now in boiling phenomena? Okay. So we have some time. So you can draw this particular figure, excess temp, pool boiling curve. Okay. Pool boiling curve. Draw this figure, everyone. So I will give you 10 to 15 minutes time period for the drawing purpose. If figure is not visible, then you can rotate the screen and you can use the zoom feature. Okay. Pool boiling curve. Draw it, everyone. Important figure. Provide all the regimes, all the information in the diagram. Okay, all the nomenclatures. Draw it properly. If you have drawn the figure, then you can put up your roll numbers in the chat box. If you don't have any doubt, we'll discuss this particular pool boiling curve in the next lecture. Okay, so just put up your roll numbers in the chat box and you can leave.